Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Dave. Today we're going to talk about James Patrick Page. Let's see, what can I say about Jimmy Page? I think if we look at everybody from the Beatles to the Stones to Pink Floyd, all that stuff, I think you have to put Jimmy Page, Hendrix, all that stuff. I think you have to put Jimmy Page on top. At least that's where he is for me. Despite being on several classic songs in the 60s as a session guy, playing on Tom Jones, It's Not Unusual, playing on A Little Help with My Friends from Joe Cocker, I Can't Explain for The Who. Besides being the session guy that he was, he is the founder of Led Zeppelin. And in my opinion, the greatest rock and roll band of all time. The things I liked about Zeppelin is, now people that know me know I'm not a huge blues guy. And I'm not, but I love the Zeppelin blues. I think they took stuff from people and made it current, accessible, and good. They were just a great band. And when you take a look at, each album they kind of like expanded. You have Zeppelin 1, which was very blues-based and folk-based, and 2 kind of continues a little bit in that. I mean, 1 and 2 could, in my opinion, they were released the same year. They could have been a double album if he just held up the release, because there's such a continuation. And then 3, they expanded into so much more. And the song I just played there was from 3, using a C6 tuning. I've seen a lot of people play it with a open C tuning, but Page used a C6 tuning. And I'll show at the end of the video, I'll play a clip of, he uses the same tuning on BraunYaur. And it's the same tuning. It's C6, so from low E to high E, it's C, A, C, G, C, E. But yeah, so that's a song called Friends. And I think Zeppelin 3 is a very important record, because for them, I think it showed everybody that they can do anything. And then Zeppelin 4 came out, and they came out with like more of a hard rock album. It's definitely not a blues album, but a hard rock album. And I think it pretty much shut everybody up, because that, is such a great album. The next album, oddly enough, is probably my least favorite, and that is Houses of the Holy. And I just have a problem with that album. I mean, I think there's some good stuff, and I like the songs. I just don't love them. I don't love the grunge, even though it's like a James Brown thing. And I don't really love Jamaica. It's okay. Dancing Days is okay. It's funner to play than it is to listen to. The opening song, it's just... I had a dream. What the hell's the name of that song? Oh my, sing out, Harry, Harry, whatever. I'm not a fan. I mean, but then the next record, in '75 there, Physical Graffiti is the greatest album ever. I mean, it's just awesome. And Presence is great. And, Jimmy, to me, was an innovator. He wasn't just sticking to a standard tuning. He would use open tunings on songs. He liked open G. He liked DADGAD. He liked C6. He liked, and just to sit there and say, like, he used the violin bow. And when you listen to songs like Dazed and Confused, you can hear that it really had a musical source, and it wasn't just trickery of him trying to be different. And he continued with that. Like, he continued. He used the Parsons White Bee Bender on the one I did, All of My Love. And he used it live a lot in '77 when he would play 10 Years Gone. He also used a Gizmotron, and they just started making those again. For those who aren't familiar with a Gizmotron, Google Gizmotron In the Evening, and that whole introduction to In the Evening is played using this Gizmotron that was created by the guy from 10cc. Lowell Cream, I believe, was the one. Or was it? Yeah, it wasn't Kevin Godley. It was Lowell Cream. And Eric, yeah, it wasn't Which I find funny that Godley and Cream got such great high credits for 10cc when the other two guys wrote everything and sang all the songs, but whatever. But anyways, but Lowell Cream created the Gizmotron, and there's a video of a guy playing it. It's awesome. I mean, I want to get one. I just have to rationalize spending $300 to convince the band to try to do one song, which would be in the evening, and it's only used on the intro. But I think even beyond that, my band right now, we do All of My Love with the B-Bender, and we also do Satisfaction Guaranteed by The Firm, which I believe is an underrated band that Jimmy Page was involved in. I think after the 80s and whatnot, he kind of he cleaned up his act a bit. And I think he probably could have done more with his career. But I think what he did in those, let's say 10 years of Led Zeppelin, 69 to 79, I would say is probably some of the most important guitar playing, inspirational stuff. It's just on its own level. I really can't even emphasize what Page did for me, because when I first started playing guitar, as I talked about in the Ace Frehley video, I really wanted to learn in that first, encounter all those Kiss songs. And then once I found Zeppelin, I remember A Whole Lot of Love, Livin', Lovin' Maid, Heartbreaker. I wanted to learn everything on Zeppelin too. Thanks to a friend of mine who in 7th grade brought in a Jethro Tull album, and he brought in Zeppelin 2. And the Zeppelin 2 one it resonated with me, and from that point on. And I also remember I loved that song, Hey Hey What Can I Do? And I would buy albums hoping it would be on it under a different name. I had no idea what the song was called. Of course, it was a single, never released. Well, it was released on the first pressing, I think, of Zeppelin 3, but then it was pulled. But anyways, love everything with them. Achilles' Last Stand. If you listen to Achilles' Last Stand, you can hear where Kiss got Love Gun, where Heart got Barracuda. Everyone just stole from Zeppelin, and Zeppelin stole from everyone. It's fair game. I remember Jimmy Page saying that he was consciously trying to copy Oh Well by Peter Green when he wrote Black Dog. That was the call response he wanted. And of course, some of the Zeppelin stuff, you can go on and look up the stuff. Everyone steals, and they didn't know at that point, what was public domain and what wasn't. And who cares? They paid. They made, people could sit there and say, oh, they stole. Well, they made more money from Muddy Waters, I'm sure, than Muddy Waters did in his whole career. And that's just off Zeppelin, too. Worldwide, I believe they sold something like 400 million records. I really can't say too much about Jimmy Page, because it just wouldn't, the more I talk about him, the more it would be like I'd be underestimating what I think he is in the rock world. It's funny when you look at bands like Kiss and Queen and all these bands that started in the early to mid 70s, they all say the same thing. They all wanted to be Led Zeppelin. And Zeppelin was a new band. They really came out in 69, and by 70, they were the big thing. So you're looking at a band like Queen, who came out around 72, 73, Kiss 73, 74. Zeppelin's relatively a new band, and everyone is just, everyone is out there saying, I want to be them. Now, Kiss, of course, has come out and said they want to be also, they had a thing for the Beatles, but they were also very in tune with what Zeppelin was doing, and they've admitted that. And what's there not to admit? Zeppelin was the biggest game in town. I think they get a bad rap with some people because of some early records and it's some blues stuff. But I think overall, if you look at I could take the album Physical Graffiti and Presence alone and say to somebody, here's a band's body of work. Here's one band's complete body of work. Compare it. And it would be hard to compare with, and then throw in Zeppelin 3 for good measure, because most people, the only song they know on it, and when I say most people, I mean your average person on the street is probably going to know the Immigrant Song. Maybe that's the way if they've seen Almost Famous, but other than that, you're looking at a relatively unknown record. But for Zeppelin fans, Friends, BraunYaur Stomp, um, Gallows Pole, Celebration Day, Since I've Been Loving You. I mean, come on. Since I've Been Loving You, in my opinion, is the greatest blues song ever. Period. I don't care. Sounds like, and I've gone to a couple of blues jams and I've seen guys play Tin Pan Alley, and I'm like, it's close enough to the song, but it misses some of the key elements of Since I've Been Loving You. Why not get the key elements down and play a much better song? Because for me, I think blues music is very uninspiring. It's very uninspired. I just find it to be like, I mean, people are going to hate me for this, but I find it to be lazy and middle of the road. I think Zeppelin took it out of that. You know, when you get all those parts in that song, Since I've Been Loving You, all those sixths and everything. Oh, it's great. I mean, I can't say enough great things about the band. I mean, you listen to a song like 10 Years Gone, and I think there's 14 guitar tracks going on there, and they're very subtle. I mean, in the beginning when it's like there's another guitar that's just playing ba-da-da, ba-ba-ba-da-da. It's subtle, but it really resonates and makes it. I mean, it's like an orchestra of guitars. And I believe someone told me there's a band, like maybe out of New York. I'm not really sure. If someone knows the name, put it in the comments, please. But there's a New York band that goes out and does Zeppelin, and they have like a ton of guitar players on stage, so they can do all the page parts, which I think is a really cool idea. Instead of trying to sound like Zeppelin did live, go try to sound like the record and pull off that. Because to me, that's what people want to hear. And a lot of people always say to me, "Don't you love live music?" And I'm like, nah, I don't. I'd rather listen to, like, you give me a pair of headphones. I remember when CDs first came out, and I put a pair of headphones on and listened to, like, I think it was Rudy by Supertramp. And I'm like, number one, I don't even want to hear them try to pull this off live. I just want to listen to this record over and over again. And I think when you listen to 10 Years Gone, you get that same vibe. I mean, there's some great songs on it. Down by the Seaside is fantastic. God, what was that other one on the Wanton song? I mean, disc 2, you know, or record 2 or tape 2, whatever you want to look at of that, I find to be better, although I used to love Custard Pie and The Rover, Cashmere, of course. Songs like In the Light, 10 Years Gone, BraunYaur, what's that one? Down by the Seaside, Night Flight. Oh, God, great. Boogie with Stu, Black Country Woman. Anyways, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Jimmy Page, because I think as far as like being the rock and roll icon of greats, for me, he's right up there with the king for me. He's number one. You know, I would say the reason I play guitar, for sure, even though Ace got me to want to learn how to play Black Diamond, when I heard Zeppelin, it was like, oh yeah, I'm going back to playing guitar. I got to figure out all that stuff. That was really like an inspiration to me. And yeah, I just think there's not much else I can say other than that I believe that you wouldn't have bands like Soundgarden, you wouldn't have like a lot of, there's so much music out there that I think relies on that Zeppelin inspiration. I mean, even bands from back then, like I said, Queen and all that, and Kiss. I'm a huge Queen fan. In fact, I think if you looked at, there's a record called Queen 2 and Sheer Heart Attack, the second and third album. To me, those are my favorites. I mean, I love, News of the World, I thought was great. And jazz is good. There's some good songs. There's some bad songs on jazz. The Game's a great album. But I really, and I think his voice was probably the best on the Black album. That was A Day at the Races. I think that might be his best vocally. But those two albums, as far as rock albums go, Queen 2 and Sheer Heart Attack, are just fantastic. I don't know that Brian May would make my list of people who inspired me to play, or definitely I loved his playing. I don't run to pick up the guitar when I hear him play and go, what was that? What was that? I mean, there's some solos I learned of his, but it's not the same as Jimmy Page when you hear 10 Years Gone for Me, your Achilles' Last Stand, or For Your Life, Royal Orleans, anything off that. Candy Store Rock, Hots for Nowhere, or is it Hots on for Nowhere? Yeah, I mean, there's just something about the way he plays, and I think as a producer too, you have to understand that Jimmy Page was doing things because he grew up in a studio being a session guy, that he knew stuff that you wouldn't necessarily notice. So I know he didn't like the close mic. He was against close miking, and he hated reverbs. He used to mic the walls or mic the room where the reverb was coming, the natural reverb was coming from. So and as a producer also, I think he liked loud drums and understood the importance of the rhythm section more than most rock. I mean, if you took the drums away from Zeppelin, I think you take away their sound. But I think Page knew that, and I think he was very, very in tune and focused what he wanted when he got that band together. Like, he knew like what it was going to take, and he got lucky. I mean, there's no question. He found Robert Plant, and Robert Plant found Bonham and knew Bonham. And I think when Page heard him, he probably shat himself and was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this is the guy's amazing, and he has that monster hit." When you hear him, you know, it's funny when you hear drummers play, and I didn't really talk about John Bonham on my drummers, although he's probably my number one, but I just think he's obvious, so it's like hard to bring up John Bonham. But he understands that the kick and the snare are going to be hard and important. And when you listen to great drummers like Bernard Purdie, who, you know, the king of that groove and that shuffle, but his kick and his snare is solid and loud and booming. And I think Page was very aware that these were the guys, when he got that together, that this was, I think he knew that it was going to be something special. And I know that when he handed the album to Ahmet Ertegun, Ahmet wanted Tom Dowd to remix it. And Page was like, there's no way that guy's touching my record, which was a good thing for both people because, you know, Dowd, I consider Tom Dowd, everyone loves his production and stuff. I think he's middle of the road. It sounds like I never heard a production that Tom Dowd was on where I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. It's just, it's for the time. It sounds all right. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing wow. It's okay. And when you listen to Zeppelin 1, it's like, oh, Tom Dowd has never produced anything that comes close to that or mixed anything. The drums and the guitar being as what it is, it changed the whole 70s. In fact, you know, like, the 60s were about singles and about, you know, bringing in guest players and whatnot. And Zeppelin came out and was like, this is the 4 guys on the record. This is the album, no singles. And I think they changed the whole 70s for the better. That they were the ones that basically put that stamp on AOR rock and roll, you know, like album-oriented rock. This is the album. This is what we're doing. You know, because even though the Beatles were putting out concept records, they were still releasing singles by the pound. You know, it's like, you know, and when they stopped, well, I shouldn't say, I mean, their production was good. I never was crazy about the way they recorded their guitars. I never thought they sounded good, but I did think the Beatles had great production for their time. But like I said, I think Zeppelin was the next stage, and of course, then for me, Gary Katz with Steely Dan. Not maybe the first 2-3 records, but right around Katie Lied, which I think was a demo, the production really took a jump. And then on the Royal Scam, I thought I knew that, like, you know, they were on to something that when Asia came out, it was just like sonic, like, ridiculousness. But I think Zeppelin started a lot. I mean, I give Jimmy Page a lot of credit. I don't want to keep going on about Jimmy Page. I am going to finish off with the guitar tuned in the same tuning here, the C6 tuning. And I'm just going to play a little clip of BraunYaur. And very good.